You are now listening to the Overflow Podcast at thisisoutcry.com. Live, the new beat from my boy, Angel. El instrumento al suaga. Yo, this is the new intro that Angel did for us. As always, this is Joaquin.
This is Jae.
And thank you for joining us today. Just doing something a little different because, you know, we can. That's just
because we can do what we want.
Because I do what I want, right? I'm the engineer. I'm the producer. I'm the talent. I mean, you know, so I just do what I want. Jae, I'm Johnny. Jae is Ed.
Who's that?
Johnny Carson. I'm Johnny Carson.
Oh, and I'm Ed McMahon.
Ed McMahon.
I don't.
All right, I'm Conan.
I don't know if our listeners will.
Okay.
Some might.
I'm Conan, and you're Andy Richter. What's up, Andy? So
I never watched Conan.
Oh man, I have. Andy's his sidekick.
I know that. But
So you're the sidekick.
I've never watched it, so I can I don't know, come up with something that he says or
I don't think he says. I mean, he doesn't have like a
catchphrase.
like Ed McMahon.
Ed McMahon had a catchphrase? I thought he just sat there and laughed.
No, yeah, he was like, ha ha ha, that's right, Johnny, or whatever it was that he said. Okay, or I'm what was the dude from New York? The comedian guy. You're Paul Schaefer, and
I am not Paul Schaefer.
And I'm what's his name? I totally forgot his name. I know he's coming out with a new show.
Letterman.
I'm Letterman, and you're Paul Schaefer. How about that?
I am not
How
Paul Schaefer.
about that?
If anything in this equation, Angel will be Paul Schaefer because he makes up the music for it.
I'm Leno, and you're Eubanks. Was that Eubanks? Yeah, the guy that played guitar.
All right, moving right along.
I'm the brand, and you're Pinky.
See, now I get it. Now I can relate.
I'm Ren, and you're Stimpy. I go all night. So what's up, man? How's your week been? As always, glad to be here on this fine.
It's funny. You asked me how my week's been, and then you started talking on your own.
Because you're too slow.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I'm waiting. Go ahead.
Oh,
stop talking.
I thought you were still doing your thing. No, you already know. It's been super busy.
Well, you know.
Yeah, we need to start taking pictures of the pops again.
Yeah, man. I've been slacking. We need to kind of, we do got to kind of get back up on that, especially because we got some new pops. Got some new Batmans, Justice League stuff popping.
Yeah, you got
It's
Aries back
popping.
there. You know what I mean? So we need to start taking pictures again.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, we'll be getting on that. Speaking of, did you see that picture I sent of the flying fox or Batman's new plane? I sent you a picture that was on
yes.
Entertainment Weekly.
All of them in the Batcave?
Yeah.
Yes.
That looked real dope.
Yes, that was, forget about it. That was bananas.
Right. I'm so excited.
Can't wait to see
I was just thinking today. Oh, I got to put it for the 17th of November.
Yo, it's funny. I was telling Junie, I think yesterday, is dang, I gotta put it in to take the day off for that Friday of the Justice League.
And this time we don't have to drive. I mean, unless we want to, we don't have to go all the way to the Mall of Georgia because I don't think they filmed anything in IMAX format.
Oh no,
no. So we could take the day off and just
go to NCG,
or AMC or whatever, Regal or whoever's showing it and watching it early in the morning. We'll watch it early in the morning, and then we'll release a extra episode of the podcast talking about that movie was awesome.
We got it right. Or
do whatever we want. We're grown men.
Yeah, we don't answer to anybody concerning this show.
That's right.
At all. So
yeah. Which I mean, it might anyway. There might be consequences due to that.
Perhaps, but until then, we do what we want.
Yes, until we have sponsors that tell us different. Because we want their money. Because I will sell out. I'm just gonna say that right now. I will sell out.
It doesn't matter for how much, right?
I mean, I will sell out. I mean, it's just the way it is. You gonna give me a lifetime supply of Hot Pockets? Done. We'll do what you want. So anyway, so this has been
Really, for a lifetime supply of Hot Pockets?
That's just like the first thing that popped into my head. I can't even eat Hot Pockets. I'd be on the corner hustling them out, selling them. Who wants a Hot Pocket? I got the cheesesteak. I got the pepperoni.
Judy will be here every day eating them all.
What are you doing here, Judy? Nothing. Well, actually, he'd be like, no. As I call him, mumbles. Dude, there's been a lot in the news. This has been a very heavy, not a heavy news week, but just a lot of just crazy stuff have been happening. There was
a lot of things that have people
up in arms,
literally, and running scared.
Yeah, so you got, the two biggest stories that pop in my head for this week are the Google memo.
Right.
That was huge with the programmer.
Did you read it?
I didn't read it. I watched a couple videos where they kind of dissected, they kind of walked through what he said, and I think that I think it just falls into kind of this society situation we got right now where people just get offended about everything. The guy makes some comments. He provided some documentation. He said, this is not everybody, but and then he gets fired for it. But
the thing is that I read some of it, and I don't think that what he said was offensive.
Right. It wasn't controversial.
Right? I don't think that what he said was wrong either. Right? I don't think what
Correct.
he said was wrong.
I don't think it was wrong at all.
Right?
He just pointed out some things.
You can't rustle feathers now, right? You can't say it.
Well, and the biggest
now.
but the biggest problem with it was the fact that news organizations were out here talking about, oh, this guy said that women shouldn't be in tech, and women shouldn't be programmers.
Never did he say that.
And he never said that.
Never did he say
Matter of fact, he was saying he was kind of come up with solutions that might help get more women into programming. So, but at the end of the day, for the Google programmer, his sin was that he said there were differences between men and women.
Yes.
And the thing that stood out for people that he said women tend to be more relational. They tend to be, and men tend to be more about wanting things. So men
about going after titles.
Yeah. So he said men go, we want things, and women want more relationship oriented. Men are more thing. And he was like, generally speaking, right? Because there's always the outliers, right? There's always the exception.
Right.
And like I tell my sister, when I have conversations with her, she wants to argue the exception. It's like, no, you can't argue the exception. That's why it's an exception, because it's out of the norm. You can't argue that as why something should be. So I think that's kind of where it was. And it's really interesting. And it's really interesting to see, just to kind of how it all broke down. And then you had, comes out that North Korea has reports are they got a nuclear capabilities now, a small nuclear warhead
but
that they can attach to one of their missiles, and all you need is a small nuclear explosion to cause a lot of damage. And then, Trump in his Trumpian way,
his Trumpisms,
was basically like, hey, if you mess with us, we're gonna what he said, you're gonna get hit
with a fire
and fury that's never been seen before.
That this world has never seen. Damn, that's like quotable right out of a movie, right? I mean, what I laughed at, and you saw that I got some slack on FB, right? What I laughed at was the fact that, he went straight New York. He said
that was real. Yeah,
it was like real New York. It was like,
York.
yo, he should have said yo, right?
Right,
yo. Like, yo. North Korea best not. I was like, I had to replay it. Like, North Korea best not be threatening the United States again. Because if they do, right, I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah, it
Like,
was
like the New Yorker came out.
It
right?
was hilarious.
And
Yeah,
like, yo, facts, B, facts. I will drop bombs on you, North Korea. Pyongyang will be no more.
And then if they pulled back another table, he wear Tim's.
Right? He drop the mic, throw his Yankee fitted on, and walk out. Brush his Timbs and walk out.
While he's
Like,
wearing his
yo,
suit.
son, right? But
That was hilarious.
but still, there are people, people running scared about that.
Yeah.
Right? You see it. Although, I mean, there are people that are angry
That he said it.
That he said it, right? And it always amazes me how Americans, right? I'm gonna be specific. How Americans can be angry at a president for defending the United States, right? But be okay with like some crazed dictator in another country who threatens the United States all the time. Right? All the time. Like,
All the time.
They're okay with the fact that this kid out there, everything that he does is in defiance of the United States, in defiance
Of the United Nations.
Defiance of the European Union. Like, he could care less. For him, it's North Korea versus the world, right? And
Correct.
the world will be obliterated, and only North Korea will stand,
Right.
right? And everybody's okay with that, right? Nobody says anything, right?
Yeah.
Nobody says that. But the minute, and it doesn't matter what president it is, right?
Right,
It just so happens that it's Trump and everybody hates
and
Trump.
a lot of people hate
But
Trump, right.
It doesn't matter what president it is. As soon as a president or a leader of this country says, like, claps back, right?
Right.
Everybody's up in arms and upset. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that.
Right.
Diplomacy, right? But it's okay. And you don't, when it's your kids getting killed, right? All of a sudden, hey, we need to do something, right?
Right.
So-
You're right. Because it's and this wasn't something we really wanted to dive too much, but it's what's amazing to me. It's North Korea. It's these same people, right? These same people that get upset about this are also the ones that were mad because we didn't intervene in Syria because look at the poor children dying, Yet in North Korea, families get wiped out.
Right.
People get sent to concentration camps because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just be real. Let's be real honest. That's what they are. Where they're sent to concentration camps to work and to die. Where farmers that are able to grow food have to give most of it to the government. So you got farmers that are growing food and starving if they're able to grow food. Right, because North Korea in the 90s there was a huge famine. Correct. And the United States gave them food, and that food went to the party. It went to the rulers. Right. It didn't go to the people.
It went to the dictator.
And then on top of that, the people that make all the stuff that our iPhone, little iPhones that people love to have, and all this different stuff made in China. And you know what China does? China gets laborers from Korea.
Yep, free labor.
Slave labor.
Slave labor.
Let's not call it free labor. It's slave labor. Right? So that China could make its money.
And Russia.
And Russia.
They also send laborers to Russia.
And that doesn't seem to outrage people. But whiffs of conspiracy, outrage. But the president clapbacks, outrage.
Let's bring it in.
I mean, get out of my face.
The kid, Otto Warmbier, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, right? Thrown in prison, let out, and he dies 6 days later.
Right.
Right? From
for allegedly
mysterious complications. No one knows why.
Right.
North Korea ain't saying nothing, right? Yep. And that'll be the segue.
For allegedly stealing a poster, which I saw which if you look at the video, you can't tell if it's him or not because the video is so bad.
Right, but supposedly he was also a spy, right? But so whatever,
everybody is,
and that'll bring us into the first topic we actually wanted to talk about because I didn't want us to get into this because I know how angry we get.
Right. Hey, we haven't had a soapbox moment in a while.
It's true. But like the pastor, the Canadian pastor,
yep.
who I think in the beginning when we first started this podcast, we spoke about we mentioned how he got arrested because actually the guy the guy that covers us as far as Legacy Church, I believe either he knows the pastor or he knows someone related to the pastor. So like we talked about it, and now he was just let out of prison, right? Because supposedly, not supposedly. The reason why he was arrested, right, is because all religion is banned in North Korea.
Correct.
And because the only god of the North Koreans is this kid.
Right. They're a communist country.
And they worship the dictator. They worship Kim whatever.
That's what communists. See, here's the thing people don't seem to understand, right?
Go ahead.
Communism, right? More people have died under communism than any other form or style of government. All right, Stalin had his millions and millions.
Oh,
millions. What's the guy? The guy from China. I cannot remember his name right now. The guy who
Ho Chi Minh.
Ho Chi Minh. Millions and millions and millions. Communism is about the state. So you wipe out religion. Communism is atheistic.
Correct.
But ironically enough, they do worship. They do have a religion.
They worship the leader.
They worship the leader. Right? So that's what people don't see. People, it's, communism. Yeah, communism.
I think of communism, no religion. Right?
Right.
Atheistic, no religion, no nothing.
But it is religious.
Right? So anyway, this pastor was accused of being a spy.
Right. It says here.
And trying to create a a religious government to overthrow the communist government.
Right.
So they threw him.
He was arrested for crimes against the state in December of 2015.
Right. They threw him in prison. Right. And he said that he said that in prison they would have him dig holes all day.
Yep, 8 hours a day.
By himself.
8 hours a day in camp.
By himself. There was nobody else around
where
there.
he did not see any other detainee. I got the article up, yeah.
Oh, you got it open? Right, it's just him and the soldiers and having him just dig holes.
Which I kind of is my dark sense of humor tends to like that sounds like a punishment people talk about back in the day, like when you were a kid, my dad made me move bricks from this pile of bricks. He made me do a new pile of bricks and then move them back.
But, and now they finally released him, and now we're just hoping that he's okay.
Right. Well,
because who knows?
And apparently, according to this article, which is what I find interesting, right? So he's a Canadian pastor. He's Toronto-based pastor, Korean pastor. They had him confess that he was planning to overthrow North Korean government,
right. Quote unquote, confess,
and set up a religious state. That's why I said they had him. They had him confess.
They forced him to confess.
But here's the interesting thing. So here's why he was in Pyongyang. He was in Pyongyang in January of 2015 to build a nursing home, nursery, and orphanage. That's what he wanted to do. And his church confirmed that he had visited the country more than 100 times since 1997. So he was going in there. He was going in there to do God's work in a hostile country. But now he's free. He'll be able to come home, and hopefully he won't.
He'll last more than 6 days.
He'll last longer than. But you know what? I think, and this is obviously my speculation, but I think the difference is because this pastor, Mr. Lee, Pastor Lim, was Korean, and he was from Canada. He'll live, because all they had him do was hard labor. Whereas the other kid, is this Warmbier. He was an American, and North Korean regime hates America.
Yeah, it says here.
So I think they would, what I'm saying? So they would treat him worse.
Maybe because who knows, right?
That's what I'm saying. I'm speculating, but I don't think I'm that far off in saying that.
According to Reuters.
Reuters.
I
think it's Reuters.
I can never remember how.
It's not a router, because those are guys that do
router.
Those are the guys that do your plumbing. It's not a router, because that's how we get Wi-Fi.
Right. So Reuters says that North Korea is still holding 3 Americans, and the U.S. State Department said last week it would ban U.S. nationals from traveling to the isolated country. Right, like should have been done a long time ago. But
Yeah, well, I mean, Americans. But see, all they do though is they just go through China. So you fly into China, and then from China you go into
right, like they used to do with
Cuba.
With Cuba.
Yeah, you go to
the Dominican Republic,
or you go to Mexico. Yeah, I was gonna say Mexico. You can fly into Mexico and then go into Cuba, or Dominican Republic going to Cuba,
or even Canada and going to Cuba.
That's a backwards way to go.
That's how some people did it.
It's like, well, I guess if you're in New York, it's easier, right? It makes sense. So I'm gonna go to Canada. But yeah, man. So it's crazy. Speaking of Canada, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I read this today.
Oh, no, leave the Canadians alone.
No. This is nothing about the Canadians.
We have Canadian people.
So I read. No. It's not a diss on the Canadians. Yet.
We shall see.
No. I read this article where they're talking about there's this town in, I want to say it's Maine, where the town, the edge of town, hits the Canadian border. And there's this road in that town that goes like into the woods and just kind of stops. And then about, I want to say it's like 100 feet or 100, 200 yards, something like that. You can walk right into Canada. And there's been a lot of illegals or undocumented workers that have been flocking into this Canadian town. Because they'll do it, or not Canadian town, this town in Maine, I believe it's Maine. Because what they'll do is they'll go to this town and they'll just walk right into Canada. They'll walk up they'll get dropped off at the street.
They'll cross the street.
They get dropped off. Well, the street like ends at the woods. So they just walk up the street into the woods, and then like, I forget how many, feet it was, or yards, it might be a mile or so, whatever it is, right? Then they just walk right into Canada. And so what killed me, what I thought was hilarious was, so the Canadians figured this out. So they set up a little camp. They set up Border Patrol agents so that as they walk out of the woods, they take them and they go on to process them, right? Well, they asked the Border Patrol, they're like, why are you letting these people do this? How come you're not stopping them? And the official they talked to says, our job is to keep people out of the country, not to stop them from leaving the country.
Wow.
I was dying when it's like, what? No, our job is to let them go. Like, they want to leave. Like, why would we stop them?
They want to go.
So I thought that was interesting, just because it just tied into the Canada thing. But I just thought it was funny. The guy says, hey, our job isn't to stop people from leaving the country. It's to stop them from coming in. So anyway, I thought that was kind of hilarious. What's the next thing? What else we got?
Sad news.
Sad news. One of Jay's man crushes.
One of. I didn't know I had more. I didn't even know I had this one.
I didn't stutter.
But all right, yeah, okay, sure, I'll take that. Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt and his wife Anna Faris announced that they were legally separating.
Yeah,
or legally separated by now.
Yeah,
right. So, it says Anna and I are sad to announce we are legally separating. We tried hard for a long time and we're really disappointed. Our son has two parents who love him very much, and for his sake, we want to keep the situation as private as possible moving forward. Right? And, we talked a lot about Chris Pratt here and how he's a believer and he's an unashamed believer. Right?
From what we've seen, not that we've talked to him personally.
No shots at 116. Right, it's no, because I said unashamed. But it's sad, right? Regardless of whatever, and they want to keep it private, and we should all respect that, because it's their marriage. So, but it's sad. It's a sad thing, and we're not gonna spend too much time here. But if you listen to us, and you hear this, and what that this is happening, we just ask that you join us in praying for them, right, as a family, right, praying for them that the Lord will intervene, that the Lord would intervene and heal their marriage, right? Or do something.
Yeah, yeah, and it can happen. I've met people that were like, yeah, we got divorced. We were divorced for 5 years, or whatever, and then the Lord worked in our lives, and ended up people getting remarried. After being divorced for a couple of years or whatever. So we know God can do His fizzle. Which that's a great segue into this third article that I ran into this week. I thought was really, really cool.
Right.
Because it's a snapshot in a back in time snapshot. Right. And it's something that well, I mean, it's not a Twilight Zone situation.
I'm trying to think of music that'll take us back in time.
No. The back in time is like.
That's right.
We are in New York City, 1956.
Oh, you sound like the villain.
So I ran across this article. I thought it was pretty cool. Now it was the title was kind of hilarious. It says a 1956 photo shows scene that would enrage liberals. Because it's a conservative site, but it's this picture of New York City, 1956. In 1956, and there's these three buildings, and they
what are the buildings?
You know
Did they say what the buildings are?
Did they say describe the crosses? So what it is all right, so I'll just say this. Beneath the picture from New York's financial district, is a contemporary newspaper
That actually looks
article,
like
which describes the buildings lit up with the sign of the cross. So they have these buildings that they turn the lights on in a way where we have crosses. Huge crosses formed by lighted windows blaze above New York skyline as part of an Easter display in Manhattan's financial district. The scene, photographed from the roof of the municipal building, features 100-foot high crosses in the City Services Company, Citibank, Farmers Trust Company, and the 40 Wall Street Corporation buildings.
Nice.
And this is, I hate thing, and keep in mind, this wasn't even on Easter proper. Church Pop, I think this might have been the website they originally got this from, points out that while the picture was published on March 31st of that year, Easter would have been April 1st. That means this almost certainly would have taken place during Holy Week. And I just thought, I saw that, and as we all know my love-hate relationship with New York and Jay's love-love relationship with New York, I just thought it was very cool because, we always think of New York, we always think of the Northeast, right, as not being very religious or not being very friendly to.
You always think of the Northeast as not being very religious.
To religion. No, a lot of that's kind of a lot of the country. Like a lot of the country feels that way, Jay. Out west, and out east. Us in the middle, flyover country. kind of not like that, or especially us in the South. Because that's not something you see. That's not something you'll see anymore.
No, not at all.
It's just these buildings or people just kind of putting out these huge, massive displays of religion, of Christianity, just to be blunt about it. So we'll try to maybe get that picture up on Instagram so you guys can see it. It's pretty, but I thought that's pretty cool because then not only do you have the pictures, but there was also a newspaper article talking about it. And the title of the newspaper article was "Come to Church Sunday." So that's something that I just thought it was kind of a neato speedo kind of thing. 1956 New York City.
It's dope, right? Because it's dope and it's sad, right? It's dope because they did this as a city together to promote Easter, right? And telling people to go to church, right? Because if you look at the article on the bottom, I think I pointed this out to you, and I'm pretty sure you saw it before I pointed it out to you. But they're a list. It's like a listing of the churches in the city, right? For the different denominations. Like, it's funny. It's like, Pentecostals, these are the churches in the city. Baptists, these are the churches. Methodists, these are the churches. And it's pretty cool. And then it's also sad because it shows you how instead of moving forward, you move backwards. Right? It shows you how
Correct.
how that's not like it's not a thing anymore. Forget about the headline of the article saying, it'll upset liberals, Forget the liberals, right? Forget the liberals.
There's liberals that
right, because there are liberals that are Christians, right? But it would upset a lot of just people, regardless.
Yes.
Liberals, conservatives,
atheists,
right? Atheists, whatever. It would upset people if one of these buildings put out even a picture of a cross, right? And told people to go to church on Easter Sunday, right? Forget about it. The whole city would be in an uproar. Well, the majority of the city would be in an uproar. Freaking De Blasio would be in an uproar.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I singled him out.
Yeah. People would be, people going to court suing. It was, all right. So the newspaper was the Oxnard Press Courier.
Wow. Oxnard.
Yeah. Oxnard Press Courier. So I thought it was kind of a neato speedo thing.
Neato speedo. Why do you keep saying that? What is that?
I don't know. Because I'm trying to make things happen, man. I'm trying to make things happen.
I'm trying to be a trendsetter.
I'm trying to make things happen, dog. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All right, so to recap. Trump ticking people off.
Facts B. Facts.
Pastor Lim being set free.
Praise God for that.
And
Chris and
Anna being legally separated.
Let's pray for them.
And seeing a picture from 1956 of 3 tall buildings in New York with crosses on their floors.
Urging people to go to church for Easter.
Which is
pretty dope.
It's pretty dope. You won't see that. You won't see that. Now those same buildings will be, rainbow colored. But anyway, so the next song, so the next thing is the song for the week. So anyway, so there's this group called Kings Kaleidoscope. Very, very dope group. When they were part of, if I remember correctly, they were part of Mars Hill out in Seattle. And so they've been doing music for a long time. They first started doing their first few releases. If you could find them, look up Kings Kaleidoscope. They would take hymns, rework the hymns musically. Just come out with some really, really just really cool stuff. Well, they got a new album coming out. And so they just released a new song, I think it was a couple of days, or in June they released, I guess it's kind of like their first single, and I ran across it the other day, and I thought it was very, very cool. They're doing this album where they're kind of collaborating with rappers, Mineo, Propaganda, some other guys. So this is gonna be the song for today. It's Kings Kaleidoscope. The song's called "The Beauty Between," featuring
Mineo.
Andy Mineo,
who just dropped an album this week.
Dropped an album with Words
Played. I think it's called Magic and Bird.
Yes, and then they just dropped a single today, or not a single, the video.
Second video got dropped today. So, check that out too if that's your style. But here it is. This is Kings Kaleidoscope, "The Beauty Between," featuring Andy Mineo.
Couldn't wait for the summer, but now I'm missing the spring. And I exhausted the winter, craving what it couldn't bring. Painting the world to be hopeless, painting it perfect and fine. But what I want on the canvas, every color, my design. How do I hold all the discord? All of my answers collide. Fighting for progress in quicksand, there's no truth between the pride. Nobody sees all the pieces, tricky to balance a beast. I am a pendulum swinging, still I know you're holding me. When the sky is falling, when life is a dream, I fortunately fall into the beauty between. Only God above me, painting my scene. I fortunately fall into the beauty between.
instead of getting out what I'm supposed to. Through that situation, God brought me closer. It ain't todo bien, but I don't see though with the pain. And a dose of that is like soap, and an open wound to be clean. Gotta happen, know it hurt. Getting better, feeling worse. I'm just happy that I work. Stacking bread instead of dirt. I'm adjusting perspective. What's an election? Love is the weapon. Trust in the blessing. Holes in my faith, I hold them in tension. Made a profession, that became my profession. The answer came in the question like, if it all fell apart, would I trust in God? And if it's all good, would I need him at all? That's when I found that beauty in between. If you know that you don't know that much, you know just what I mean. Woo.
When the sky is falling, when life is a dream, unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Only God above me, painting my scene. Unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Give me water, lift it up. Take my time to taste the cup. Realize a different story. Full of life and full of glory. Give me water, lift it up. Take my time to taste the cup. Realize a different story. Full of life and full of glory. Give me water, lift it up. Take my time to taste the cup. Realize a different story. Full of life and full of glory. When the sky is falling, when life is a dream, unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Only God above me, painting my scene. Unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Unfortunately fall into the beauty between. Unfortunately fall into the beauty between.
And
Yo,
that
yo,
was
yo.
Kings Kaleidoscope, The Beauty Between, featuring Andy Mineo. I really like that song.
Yeah, so do I.
It's like a really dope song. I know they were doing a pre-sale, so I guess I'm going to go do the pre-sale to get the album because it's pretty sick. Sick in a good way. Sick in a good way. So, all right, man. So now we are time for the meat of the podcast. Time for the rapper. I'm the DJ. I do the first part. Jay's the rapper. He does the second part. So, what we got going on today, Jay?
Today we are going to start. Sorry, my leg fell asleep, and now I got like the pins and needles. We're gonna start on a series, right? I'm thinking it's gonna be between, let's say, 7 to 9 weeks, right?
Whoa! That's a long series. That's a mini series.
That's a mini series. Well, because we're gonna break down the fruit of the spirit, right? And what they are, what they mean, what they're for,
Yeah.
right?
I like fruit.
Right, because I mean, a lot of people know, right? And I they can give you the list, the rundown of what the fruit of the spirit are.
Right.
For whatever reason, whenever I try, I always miss one. Like
Right.
it's always one that I miss.
It's the one fruit you don't like.
The one fruit that's hard for me to show, right? So we're just gonna break down according to Galatians 5, right? And I think it's imperative for us to go through this now because there is so much compromise in our faith in Christ these days, right? In our walk as Christians these days, where it's yesterday morning I was watching, or this morning I was watching a video from Francis Chan. Was it this morning? Well, it doesn't matter. Right? And I think I sent it to you guys.
Yeah, I started watching it, but then it worked.
And it was talking about, he was talking about like the two greatest lies
Yes.
in Christianity right now. And he said one of them is that we're inherently good.
That people are good.
Right? The people are good. And the second one was that a loving God would not punish.
We're not judge.
Right? No, it was punish. It was punish.
I remember him saying judge.
It was the whole thing with hell. right? Like, the punishment of hell, right? Remember, you started watching it. I watched the whole thing.
The judgment.
But
I'm judging you.
but you know, I watched that. I watched that, and I said that real Puerto Rican. I watched that, and it made me think about how, right, how a lot of things that are going on, like what's going on right now with CHH, right, and that whole battle, that whole supposed beef, like age-old beef that's still coming around. Like that's like some Kobe beef, right? I said Kobe. What's wrong with me today?
I have no idea.
Right, and the deal is that, like, when I think about all those things, right, I've decided also to take on an artist again and manage an artist, and we were having this conversation about art, right? Because that's the big thing with Christian artists now. Like, they want to be passionate about their art, right? And,
Right.
and
Which is nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Let's kind of
but
put that out there. Let's not.
no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, I told him that's good, but the difference between a Christian artist and an artist that's not Christian is that the Christian artist has someone to answer to, right?
Right.
You still you still have to be, you know, we still have to come face to face before God and be accountable for
Right, so you gotta-
how we
right,
use
well,
their, how they use their gifts.
Well,
right?
first of all, I prefer an artist that's a Christian, and then second,
I knew you were going to say
I
that. Right? But listen.
no,
listen,
but the thing is, I was going to say this though. It's the thing with an artist. All right, so let's just say artist, and then say Christian. Now, whatever you want to call yourself, Christian artist, Christian, whatever. But the point is what you're saying though is that, you know, are you Christian first or are you artist first?
Yes.
Regardless of how you flip that.
Regardless
right?
of the label,
that's
of the
irrelevant. The
label.
label is irrelevant.
right.
But are you Christian first or are you artist first? Go ahead.
Right, exactly. So, you know, while I'm speaking to him, I'm thinking to myself, and I think you, Juice, and I have had this conversation where, when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to the root of it all, is that there is a lack of pursuit of holiness in this new, or in this iteration, or in this new translation of what Christianity should be in this day and age, right? In this day and
Right.
age, with these new kids coming up and whatever,
Right.
Because I remember, like, when we were growing up, right, the big thing was the pursuit of holiness and to not compromise. I remember everybody was
Right.
like, you should not compromise your faith for anything.
Right.
And now it's like compromising galore, right? For the sake of whatever it is, for
Of
the sake
rele-
of your art,
of
for the sake of
relevancy,
relevance,
of,
for the sake
you know,
of relationship, of
quote
friendship,
unquote
or whatever.
opening doors.
Right? Right? So it's like, yeah, no problem, right? So,
Well, and the thing too, though, us growing up, it was also very much a, you know, the idea that you do, you know, that in everything you do, because it wasn't just art, but it was garbage man, it was teacher, it was lawyer, it was doctor, but it was still very much a, you need to reflect your faith in everything you do.
right.
Like that was
Yes.
right. That was the thing. Now with music, I think, you know, the reason we look at music a little differently is just because it's a different kind of platform. You know, me and you, maybe hundreds potentially that we might run across in a few weeks' time, right? Let's just say, just for the sake of the example, we might run into a few hundred people in let's say in a week.
Okay.
We might hit 100. We might run into 100 people,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, our reach is not that great, correct?
Correct.
Just
yeah.
right. But and I think that's why, because with an artist, but you got the potential of thousands
Yes.
in a day, right? We were just looking at the one dude from Pentatonics that left. He released his music video a week ago.
Yeah.
Was
and
it
it's almost 900,000.
And it's almost
views.
900,000. Almost 1 million people have watched that video already. So yeah. So we have to. So we really do have to look at art is a little differently than we do.
Yeah, like
than
I
we
was
do
like,
a
like
lawyer.
I was telling this kid, right? You know,
You know.
yeah, we have to remember that
The lawyers need Jesus though. So that's all another stuff.
even you know, you want to protect your art, right? But you still, as a believer, right? Like you said, I like the way you said it. You know, are you a believer first, or are you an artist first, right? As a believer, you have to take in consideration the influence that music has on society, on people, and on culture.
Yes.
Right? Like music as well as fashion and those things like that.
And
Like,
I would even say not just people,
they
but
can
your
shape. They can shape a person.
right. Not even just people, but your fans.
Yes.
Right. Let's drill it down a little more specific. Your fans.
Right, your fan base. Yeah, very true. So I'm saying all that, right? Just like a long-winded intro, but I'm saying all that because
Which is what we do.
Because, right, in the pursuit of holiness, right, in the pursuit of holiness, then you find yourself wanting to be more like Christ, right? More like Jesus, right?
Right.
First Peter says, "Be ye holy, for He is holy." Right. So,
Right. And this is apart from everything.
right.
Right. So
Correct.
so we can kind of keep this track. So as believers, period, regardless of what we do, period. we want to pursue holiness.
Period. Right. And so in pursuing holiness, right, we have to keep in step with the Holy Spirit. Right?
Word.
See how that works?
Nice.
Right? You pursue holiness,
Wah, wah.
you keep in step with the Holy Spirit, right? So we're going to talk about the fruit of the Spirit, because the fruit of the Spirit are nine things that make up the characteristic or the character of God, right? And if we reflect these things, or if we show all nine of the fruit, right? All nine of the fruit, then it's the most Christ-like we can be in our everyday walk. And that is reflected, and that will be seen, and that will be shown in everything that we do, right? So if you pursue, if you look to live out the fruit of the Spirit, right, then that will be shown in your music. It will be shown in your speech. It will be shown at your job, in your work, and how you work, and how you
Right.
respond and react, and you interact with people.
Correct.
Right? Regardless of who they are.
Who they are.
right?
Family, right? How you react
Friends,
with your
family,
wife, how you with your kids.
strangers,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where all of us struggle. I think because all of us we, how do I say this? I think, we want to do. All right, let me kind of back up here a second. Well, you say what, 9, right? 9, which is funny because as you were saying 9 fruits of the Spirit, I was going looking at the scripture before it, and one thing about the way I look at our faith is just everything's about this or that. Right. This or that. Right. You have God. You have the devil. Right. You have death. You have life. There's always a choice. There's this choice that we walk through, and I think that a lot of times we want to choose which fruits of the Spirit we want to kind of show.
Yeah, we want to walk out on.
We want to walk out. But then if you look at the scripture, because it's a pretty long passage, but when we look at it, the one thing that strikes to me is the very first part of that is it's like, I was just counted, I counted like 15 like negatives
Right.
to the 9 positives.
Right.
Right.
So it's almost like it's easier.
Right. It's right. So it's easier to walk in the flesh, which is what Paul is teaching. But then again, I mean, we see that even in Jesus' example, right? When he was in the desert, the devil didn't tempt him spiritually, right? He tempted him.
Tempted his ego.
He tempted his flesh, right? He
his-
tempted
yeah.
his flesh. He tempted his ego, which ego feeds the flesh.
Right. It tempted his hunger, right?
Right, because he was like, we can turn these stones to bread, right? So he tempted him. The way I look at it, in kind of
And he tempted his faith.
His faith, right.
He did tempt his faith.
But it was, then when Jesus prayed, he goes, take this from me, right? Take this cup
Right.
from me. Well, what is, excuse me, I mean, what did that mean, right? He mean, like, don't let my flesh,
Overtake.
right?
Over-
Take, like, save my life is what he's
Right.
saying, right? Save my physical life.
Yep.
If that's what you want, save my flesh, right? When he's, man shall not eat by bread, not live by bread alone. The flesh. that is, the reality is, right? That's our enemy. We are our own enemy.
Right. Our desires and our wants and what we feel that our desires and our wants and our needs are more important than everybody and anything else. This is why, like what I always teach, that Christianity, right, the religion of Christianity, is about the other person, right? It's about putting the other person first, right? Love your enemies, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? It's about showing God's love by, the first shall be last and the last shall be first, right? By showing that the person next to you or the next person or the people around you are more important than you are. You got to lift them up in order for you to be lifted up, right? Humble yourself so that you can be exalted at due time, right? So it's like it's backwards. It's like it's a little bit backwards. A little bit backwards because in order for us to come up, then we got to help everybody else come up first.
We don't. So it's like in Islam, right? They talk about when they die, right? Their works get put on a scale, and if they've done enough works, right, to tip the scale on their favor, right, they get to go to paradise.
Correct.
Right? Where so everything is, I got to make sure that I'm doing good.
Yes.
Whereas for us, we're not trying to do good so that we can get into heaven, or at least that should be our thought process. But in a way, we're trying to do good because it makes God happy, and in us doing good, it makes us good.
Right. And the thing is that our doing good
changes us.
Right. But the way we do good for us is by making sure that we lift up
someone else.
Yes. Right. Like it's mind boggling. Like the deeper you get into these things, right, it boggles the mind, and it also makes you realize how much of a jerk you are.
Correct.
Because we're all about me, and
not me, but yes.
No, I said you are, right? You see, it's about the other person.
What they say? For every one finger you point at someone, there's 3 pointing back.
I pointed all 5 at you, right? Like straight. Son,
it's you,
right? So we're gonna get into scripture. We're reading out of Galatians 5, starting from verse 16, right? And we want everyone that hears this to realize that the only way that these things can happen and you can start changing and living the fruit is by walking by the Spirit, right? So
we're gonna so before Jay reads this, I just want to say the reason we're gonna be concentrating on the fruits, but the reason we're giving you this long passage is because we want to give you the contrast of what is the opposite of those fruits,
right?
Because the fruits are of the Spirit, but Paul also talks about the fruits of the flesh. So go ahead.
And not only that, but as we said last week, don't just focus on 1 or 2 verses. Read everything around it so that you can get the full context of what's going on.
Correct.
Right. So that's what we're doing there. Also, we don't just talk about it. We're also about it. I was gonna say we also be about it, but
be about it. All right.
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
Whatever.
Let's
Right.
do it.
But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Boom. That's a podcast in and of itself, right there. Right. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing the things you want to do. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now, that's another podcast too. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, all sexual sin. Right? There's no one sexual sin over the other. I just want to point that out. Right? Sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries. What? Rivalries in the church? What? Dissensions. I'm saying, you know how much we hate people that do videos calling out other ministries.
Right.
So rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I love how Paul is like, all these heavy things, and then he says, and things like these.
What I'm talking about.
I
I could write a whole book, just all the sins of the flesh.
I warn you, as I've warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Christ Jesus, it's another podcast, have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit. Another podcast. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, or envying one another. Right? So, like,
Boom.
mic drop.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Right? Awesome mic drop moment. So what we want the entire context, right? Because, yes, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, right? Awesome. But like Paul in this entire portion of this verse, of this chapter, like he makes it super clear. He makes it extremely evident that none of these things can happen outside the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Right. So it's like, fruits of the flesh is blah, 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 blah. But if you try to do these things out of the flesh, you will be unsuccessful.
Correct.
Right. Everything has to be done by the Spirit. You got to walk in line with the Spirit. You got to walk in step with the Spirit. And once you allow yourself to be completely overcome and be led fully, right? Led fully
Correct.
by the Holy Spirit, then you can start showing love, joy, peace, right? I love the last one. Like the last one. The last one is the one that gets people the most, right? Because self-control is a fruit of the Spirit, right?
Right.
And it's self-control, and that's a blanket self-control. Not don't be angry. You have to show self-control.
Right.
Self-control, discipline, and in some translations it's discipline.
Yeah.
right.
Self-control. It's like I'm reading this and I'm like, it's funny because I don't know about you, but when I read the stuff of the flesh, I'm like, that's not me. That's not me. That kind of fits me. Okay, yeah, maybe that fits me too. And it's, if we're honest with ourselves,
yeah,
right?
of course.
If we're honest, like for me, the one that, and it is the fits of anger, because I do have a bit of an
angry streak,
a fit of anger streak that kind of bubbles up every once in a while.
On the podcast we call them soapboxes.
No, that's righteous anger. That's okay. That's Bible. That fits.
Yeah, but even in the fruits of the Spirit, right? I see like self-control. Like I'm getting on that.
That's like
self-control,
yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I struggle with that, right? Yeah. I see patience, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of struggle with that too.
Yeah,
right?
that's what's the old saying? Don't ask God for patience because He'll give it to you.
Kindness, right? Kindness at all times with everyone that you come across and that you do life with, right? It's not just because a lot of people are kind to strangers, right? There's even a saying like, be kind to strangers or show kindness to a stranger.
Be kind, rewind, right?
Right? Yeah, but your annoying sister that just keeps bothering you, and every time you just hear her voice, you just want to like punch her in the face. Or when you see, when you see her name show up on your phone, and you're like, nope,
right?
Straight to voicemail.
Well, it's funny because we got into it. Me and Jay get into it every once in a while off the air, because we're friends and that's what we do.
And being Puerto Rican, we are very passionate people.
Yes, being Puerto Rican, like I love to argue, and that's just my thing.
And I love to yell, and that's my thing.
So so it works. Which is great though, because I know this is a way sidebar, but sometimes Jay will get really loud, and all of a sudden I'll get really quiet, and I'll be like, "Why you gotta talk so loud?" And Jay's like, you shut up." Those are the tactics of an arguer. But anyway,
those are the tactics of an evil arguing genius.
But no, because I remember we had a conversation a few weeks ago about people that come in and out of our lives. And they only seem to come in and out of our lives when it's beneficial to them. And it's right. Remember, we got into this whole conversation about, well, we still have to be, because our instinct is, you're dead to me, right? That's always been our joke. You're dead to me because
I used to say that a lot.
right? Because we tried to help you, and then you took it, and then you just bounce out, and we never hear from you, and then all of a sudden you're back, and it's a real hard thing.
Yes.
To be kind to them and to be gentle to them, because our flesh is hurt, right? Our feelings are hurt. Oh, and now you want to, and so that's kind of a,
solo me llamas cuando me necesitas.
you only need me when you need me. Anyway,
No,
you only call me when you need me. I completely screwed up the translation. That's why I don't translate. But that's because we want to give you that's like a real a kind of a real world example that me and Jay have dealt with and deal with.
And I'm pretty sure that everyone that listens to us.
I mean,
right,
but
deals
I
with
just want to say
that,
so
right?
that
Yeah. But I'm saying
It's for us.
it's a very common thing, right? I'm
Right.
glad that you chose that over the many things, right? Because it's a common thing. We all feel that way. We all feel that when that happens, that we're being used.
right.
That we're being used, and if we really want to Jesus juke that's what we do to Christ every single day.
Right. That's the Homer Simpson example. Where when he's in trouble in The Simpsons, there's been several episodes where Homer's just in trouble, right? And he needs help, and he cries out, "Help me, God!" And God reaches out and helps him, right? And so the example, he'll be like, "I'll go to church every Sunday. I will
We start making
whatever."
We start
He's
making
like, "Help me,
all
God!"
these promises.
And God helps him, and then the following week's like, "Dad, aren't you go to church?" He goes, "Nah, but you said you told God that you would because he helped you." He goes, he's God, he'll understand. Like, and that kind of mentality. And I think, it's funny how, because, all the fruits of the spirits they're all very relational,
Yes.
anyway. And it's, so that's the struggle, right? And I think that's something that we all can relate to is when, I've had conversations with Jay about family members where it's kind of like, I'm so fed up with their stupidity, right? Because that's how we are. And it's like, but we still have to be kind to them.
I think the hardest,
and it's hard because they're family.
It's family, right? Because we tend to expect more
out of our family
than
we do
right?
strangers,
forgetting that they are still people.
right?
They still fall short the same way
They're
we
still
fall
messed
short,
up like us, right?
They still screw up the way we screw up, right? But because they're family, we put them like at a higher level,
Right, because because we have that relationship with
right.
them.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of some examples that we have to we wrestle with, in how to deal and how do we let these fruits manifest in our relationships,
right? In our lives,
most important
in the day to day,
and I would even say, like, let's to drill it down even very specific in our relationships, right? How do we let these fruits of the Spirit manifest in our relationships, with family and friends first and foremost, because those are the people where we tend to want to get out our face with the most.
Yeah, it's very
anyway.
easy. And I love how the commandment that Jesus gave us was to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, right?
Right.
Because our family and close friends are our closest neighbors. Right? Our spouses, for those of us that are married, those are our closest neighbors, right? Our kids, and those are the ones that we tend to lash out the fastest,
yes,
right? And the most, right? We can lash out at our brother and sister and then be completely kind and loving to a complete stranger.
Yes.
Right. So
that's messed up. I mean, not messed up that you're nice to the stranger, but
it's messed up that that's the way it is.
That's how we are.
Right.
That's
That's
how
the way
we
it
act.
is. So we're gonna go through, and I said 7 to 9 weeks because there are 9 fruits of the Spirit, but we can put 2 in one episode, right? Like we can put goodness and kindness and combine them, right? So we're gonna talk about how as believers, right? How as believers we can bear fruit in our everyday,
right,
on the day-to-day with everyone that we come across, right? Because the thing is, the thing that we want that we want everyone to gain from this series,
including us,
is, and yeah, especially us, right?
Yeah, forget you guys.
Is to get closer to God, right? So that we can show God to everyone that we come across.
Yes.
Right? To be more Christ-like, so that everyone that we come across, or everyone that comes across us, can see Christ in us.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And experience
right.
Christ.
And then, to kind of, because all of that, right? So if we are bearing fruit, if we are bearing this fruit, if we are bearing, self-control and patience and peace and joy and all these, the non-fruits, then how does that then, right? Because big pictures, how does that then, how does that translate to those that are artists? How does that translate to your music? How does that translate to your written word? How does that translate to whatever your art is, right? Pictures, whatever it is. How does that translate?
Or whatever,
serving French fries at McDonald's.
Right.
How does
whatever
that,
your
how does that
is.
translate designing at Cox Media? How does that translate in being a security guard and Home Depot? Like, those are the things that, those are the things that ultimately where we want to go to where, because I know for me, my job can be very frustrating, and so I get bent out of shape. So I don't have very much self-control when it comes to that, or have a lot of fits of anger at work sometimes because people are frustrating. So how can I change that? How can I change that? What steps can I take? How can I work on being led by the Spirit more in those things? And that's what we want.
How can we bear fruit?
And what does that look like?
So if we focus on verse 25, it says, if we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit, right? And that's the key, right? That's like the biggest, the secret that's not hidden at all. Like, it gets in your face, and that's the key, right? We live by the Spirit, then let's keep in step with the Spirit, and when we do that, then we are able to bear fruit easier, right? Because it's not going to come from us, right? It's not going to come from us. To not want to like tell somebody off, or at least, and not even just tell somebody, because most times we don't tell anybody off. Most time we wait until they're gone, and we get up and we walk away somewhere.
We get real passive aggressive,
right? We get real passive aggressive. Like I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Or we just we wait till they're done, and then
you do. That's usually passive aggressive.
And then we start like going off and talking crap and cursing them out and whatever, right? When they're not there. But still, that's a fit of anger.
Yes.
Right? That's not self-control.
Right. I got to feel that self-control is going to be a theme for us. Because that's it. That's kind of what we want to that's where we want to head for these next couple of weeks is work together to try and be more fruitful. Be more fruitful, because, and I remember somebody one time said to somebody, you know what, don't judge. It's not for you to judge. And the guy said, hey, I'm not judging. I'm just inspecting the fruit.
I'm just inspecting the fruit.
And it was said in a real like sarcastic way. But when our fruit is inspected, what fruit do we want? Do we want God to see? What fruit do we want others to see? Do we want them to see all the negative fruit, the fruit? It's kind of when you grow a plant and you get the sickly looking tomatoes or whatever. If it's a tomato plant, and you get some, you want the good tomatoes, right? The big, ripe, juicy red tomatoes. You don't want them little tiny green sickly ones. Which fruit do we want to provide? Which fruit do we want others to see in us, right? We want to see the ones that are delicious.
Yes, we do.
The delicious fruit. So, anything else, Jay? I think
we're good. So I think next week we're going to start with love.
So next week we'll start with love, and then
and all the facets, right? Because it's not just romantic love, and it's not just brotherly love,
right?
Not brotherly love. It's not just sibling love,
right? And we've I think we've even talked about this before, so it's a revisit. It's always good to revisit. And then listen. So we'll see y'all next week. I'm assuming if we're all alive still, if We haven't been blown
no,
up to smithereens.
we're good on the East Coast. It's the West Coast.
It's the West Coast. I gotta worry. Suckers. We'll pray for you. Yeah. So listen, as always, thank you for hanging with us this long.
Thanks for listening.
As always, we love you guys. Hey, leave us a comment. Tell us you love us, hate us, or are indifferent.
There you go. I was waiting for that one.
And I like that. I make that my tagline in life. You love me, you hate me, or you just indifferent to me.
That's almost the quote from the movie Cool Hand Luke.
And
have you seen that?
I've never seen that movie.
Love me or hate me, just let me know it.
Just let me know it. And so the intro, I think that's gonna be the new intro for a while. Shout out to Angel, thank you for it. It was dope. And now we're just gonna end with the old outro because that's how I'm gonna do things. So as always, till next week, we love you. And
because it's the fruit of the spirit.
We'll see you. Peace.
Thanks for listening. Remember to head on over to thisisoutcry.com for more content. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, or Stitcher.